Alright, so in this video I've been asked to just decline various nouns in the different declensions and chant the endings. So I'm going to do two things. One is I'm going to chant the actual endings of the different patterns, and then I'm going to decline words in each pattern. So I'll go all the way from the first declension all the way to the fifth declension in the video. Okay. So the first declension pattern you'll notice is marked out by the letter A appearing basically everywhere in the pattern. So I'll just start off just by chanting the endings. So when I chant, I say, first declension, feminine. I, ah, I, is, as, I. And I would say it again, I, is, as, I. Then we can take a word. We'll take femina, which means woman. So we'll go femina, femini, femini, feminum, femina, femina. Femini, feminarum, feminis, feminas, feminis, femini. We'll do the second declension, masculine endings. Now the second declension masculine endings can be a little tricky because they can either end, the nominative form can be one of two things. It can end in an us, like amicus, or our friend Brutus, or it could be an ending in an R, like puer means boy. So amicus, like our friend Brutus, amicus Brutus, or puer. So when I chant it, I say, second declension masculine, R slash us, I, o, I, orum, is, os, I. And again, R slash us, I, o, I, orum, is, os, I. And then let's take amicus. Amicus, amici, amico, amicum, amici, amico, amica. Amici, amicorum, amicis, amicos, amicis, amici. Let's do puer. Puer, pueri, puero, puerum, puero, puer. Pueri, puerorum, pueris, pueros, pueris, pueri. Second declension, neuter. Second declension, neuter, follow the pattern I. So, like bellum, belly, suxum, suxi, kylum, kyli, etc. So the second declension, neuter. I, o, orum, is, a. I, o, orum, is, a. So let's decline the word bellum, belly. Again, it's going to go bellum, belly. So bellum, belly, bello, bellum, bello, bellum, bella, bellorum, bellies, bella, bellies, bella. Okay. Third declension, masculine and feminine. The third declension, masculine and feminine, they share their forms. In this first form is going to be a variable. If you should, I hope you could see that's an X, but I drew it as kind of a funky X because it can be anything. It could be anything like, for example, the word for ship is nawis. So that variable could be the same thing that's in the genitive form. That variable could end in X, like rex regis. Or it could be like princeps principis, where it's a random that doesn't appear. So be very careful, students and teachers, be very careful. I don't like to use the word rex as my sample because it actually ends in X, which can be confusing to the students. So be really careful. This X is an algebraic X. It is a variable. It's random. You don't know what it's going to be. So you really want to make sure for third declension you're memorizing those first two forms. Have to have them memorized, okay? So the third declension, masculine and feminine, goes X is X, ace ibus, ace. Iterum. X is X, ace ibus, ace. So let's decline princeps, principis means prince. Princeps, principis, principi, principem, principe, princeps, pardon. Principes, principum, principibus, principes, principibus, principes. We can do rex regis as well. Rex, regis, regi, regem, rege, rex, reges, regum, regibus, reges, regibus, reges. Okay, but be very careful with the X. This is the hardest declension I find for almost all of my students. I can tell. Okay, the third declension neuter is almost the same as the third declension masculine and feminine, the one change being that the X, neuters are always the same in the nominative, the accusative, and the vocative forms. And those nominative, accusative, and vocative forms in all declensions are the short A. I know the green probably doesn't show up super clearly on the video, so my apologies. But here then is the third declension neuter. The endings are X, is, E, X, E, X, ibus, ibus, Again, X, is, E, X, E, X, ibus, ibus, So, taking a third declension neuter word like litus, literis, which means shore, like the seashore, we would go litus, literis, literi, litus, litera, litus, litera, literum, litoribus, litera, litoribus, litera. Just like that. Fourth declension, most of which are masculine and neuter, but you have the word manus, which means hand. I always tell my students you can remember that is feminine because it's mostly women who get manicures. Mostly. So that's one way to remember it. Manus is the feminine word of the fourth declension. Okay, so here is the fourth declension. I also tell my students this is the U. The first declension is A. The fourth declension is the U, because the U's show up everywhere. And that's an homage to the University of Miami. So here we go. Fourth declension endings are us, ui, us, ibus, us. Again. Us, ui, us, ibus, us. So let's decline tumultus, tumultus. That means riot or disturbance, something like this. And here we go. Tumultus, tumultus, tumultui, tumultum, tumultu, tumultus, tumultus, tumultuum, tumultibus, tumultus, tumultibus, tumultus. We'll skip the fourth declension neuter. That would be a word like cornu, cornus. Not a super common declension in many respects, but we'll get to the fifth declension. The fifth declension is a very common declension. You have a word like dies, day, and the other very common word, res, thing, show up all the time. So it's a very important declension. Most words of this declension are feminine. Most are feminine, although then you've got dies, which is masculine. So there you go. So as a side note, what I tell my students is you've got this nice little reminder. The first and fifth declensions are almost all female, feminine. The second and fourth are almost all masculine and neuter. And then you've got the third, smack dab in the middle, which are all three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter. So you've kind of got this nice little effect. Feminine, masculine, all masculine, feminine, masculine, neuter, all masculine, neuter, feminine. So here's the last declension, fifth declension, feminine. And the endings here are a little tricky. This one you'll notice has e's throughout. So I just have my students memorize the actual word res, because the endings are kind of weird. But anyway, here they are, the declension of the word res, which means thing, like republica, the res publica, right, the republic. So here we go. Res, re, rem, re, res, rerum, rebus, rebus, res. Again, fifth declension, feminine. Res, re, rem, re, res, rerum, rebus, rebus, res. And there you go. There are all 5 declensions for you.